So today's session is going to be about virtual agent using NLU, how we can give additional advantage to our conversations by using NLU models and best practices.
Yeah, all good now. Thanks.
Awesome, good. So guys, just quick reminder on the safe harbor notice. Just in case if I'm using any forward-looking statement, that should not make your buying decision. Yeah, so with this notice, quickly move on to next slide. Just about me. So I'm part of ServiceNow here, a team called Product Success Management Group. I'm a product success manager there, based out of India, Bangalore. Just quick reminder, in case if you want to join us in future sessions, then you can click the link which one of my colleague will post here. So you can join us in future similar sessions. Very useful to learn more about ServiceNow product offerings. A couple of reminder on the housekeeping. So this session is going to record and it will be available for the future uses in the community page. After the session, you will have a short survey. Please don't forget to fill the survey. It's a good way to share feedback how we can improve further in future sessions. Quick poll. So before going ahead, I want to just quick check on the sentiments about about the audience that we have, about their familiarity in terms of NLU. So I'll just run one poll here and expecting your answer. So let me launch a poll. The poll one will have two questions. The first question is more about your awareness on NLU, how familiar you are. The poll two is about if you're using conversations in VA, then are you really using NLU now or not at all using VA? Just wait for a few seconds. Yeah, let me end the poll. Seems like we have a majority audience somewhat familiar with NLU and looking for tips, and majority of them, they are using VA as of now and with NLU. And the poll here, share result. Good, really good audience. All right. So with this, let me move on to next slide. Before we moving forward, I would like you to familiar with couple of terms that we will use frequently in our session today, and very useful to know about NLU terminology. But what is NLU in such? Natural language understanding is something a great way to if you can use these NLU models with the in conjunction of your conversations, then it system will learn and respond to human expects intent. So it's kind of a how human interact. You can make your machine smart enough to interact in somewhat similar way. And if you use NLU with a combination of your VA conversations, then NLU model can provide information to your VA conversations by determining what exactly user want to do, what is the intent of the user, behind the conversation that we are doing. So how NLU can do this? By extracting a couple of relevant information from the conversation that VA is doing with the end user. So that's about the NLU and how NLU models will be helping the VA conversations to make them more smart. Couple of terms that we'll use frequently in our session today. Intent is something that user want to do or user want to achieve, right? So, for example, if someone want to access of your Wi-Fi, then there is an intent to get access. If someone want to report an issue, that may be intent is to create an incident or create a ticket. So intent is something, the meaning behind the conversation. What is the reasoning behind it? What exactly a user want to achieve? Utterances is a different examples how a user can express the intent. So we might have a different ways to express our intents. So utterances will basically is kind of a way how user is expressing the need or intent. Entity is something, a very good concept, where we can define entities in the utterances just to give a context to those utterances, so that our model can learn what exactly the context of this conversation, and also read the action behind it, so that it can start serving better way to all those conversations. We do have different kind of entities. Let's not going to deep dive, but system entity is something predefined in the instance. It comes as out of the box with the ServiceNow instance. User defined entity is something user can define based on their conversations, their industry standard, based on their user cases. Common entities are something again predefined. Something can be used across the organization, for example, quantity, or in general currencies. So those are pretty much common entities. There is a concept called vocabulary, which is again very useful. Sometimes when we want to define acronyms or synonyms, then vocabulary is a really good way to define all those synonyms, so that system can understand what is the common meaning behind all different words, right? So if you can see here example of Microsoft, if you want to define an acronym MS, then system can detect MS means Microsoft, we're referring here. So vocabulary is another way to give a meaningful insights to your models. And as I mentioned earlier, NLU model is nothing but collection of all those utterances, entities, is something called V model. Yeah, so there is a story behind it. One of our customer, they were talking internally, and they keep calling this term called where is my zebra? Where is my zebra? So in general conversations, whenever we'll hear this question, probably what picture will come into our mind is zebra, like an animal, right? Black and white color. But you know what they were referring? So they were referring actually zebra scanner, which is kind of a handheld device. So they were looking for zebra scanner, not exactly the zebra. So this is where vocabulary or entities will come into picture, and how we can translate this to system. So that system can also start differentiating. User want to talk about zebra scanner, not about the zebra animal. So this is what NLU can do for our meaningful conversations, to differentiate, to give the learning to our models or system to differentiate these two things at the same time. So this is what the power of NLU. With going forward, if you're clear on these terminologies, and we can move forward. So in our traditional ways of this is how virtual agent work. This is how our conversations work in ServiceNow. If you're aware about the conversations, then we have a different point to initiate the conversation. Then where user can start the interaction with the virtual agent, and the virtual agent is having a power to interact with the ServiceNow tables and all the different modules to get the information and pass on this information back to the end user to serve the better, right? So whether it's about the knowledge base or information about cases or outages, a lot of internal integrations with data tables. So this is how the typically virtual agent conversation works to serving the user, right? If you go further down, I would like to highlight the difference in the traditional ways of conversations versus the new modern world in NLU. So in traditional ways of virtual agent, what we do, we simply have a kind of a flow in the designer. We will define all the steps how this conversation will initiate and how it will go from one point to another to the end. Right. So in a usual way, VA without NLU, it totally depends on topic discovery based on the keyword search based on the keyword mapping. This is how we typically we thought about that VA conversation works. So it's a step-by-step process. In the meantime, system will ask a couple of follow-up questions to user. Hey, do you mean laptop? Do you mean by hardware? Do you want to express your priority with this issue? So all those conversations will go in between of this. The moment we have an NLU comes to picture, so it will give some mind to our models or machine to start thinking of way beyond our traditional VA conversation works. So here we have a context of intent and entities. So using NLU, models, they will start predicting the intent behind any conversation. So if we take a simple example of update my email to john@sn.com. So what is the intent behind it? If we really train our models, they can start predicting those intents. So intent here in this conversation is basically user want to update the profile, right? That is what the ultimate intent is. And what is the item that user want to update? Basically the email. And where is this new email ID? This is what the value is. So everything is available in single conversation, and system will smart enough to extract all these information and then start providing the meaningful responses or actions further. If you compare with the traditional models, VA conversations, so sometimes during the flow, system will start asking, hey, where is your new email ID? Right. So we can, by using NLU, we can bypass all those sort of additional questions. We can make conversations more smooth and short, very quick, relevant to the user. So this is what the power of NLU using with your VA conversation. Make your conversation smart. With this, I would like to have a quick check on the implementation cycle. So in case of NLU, we usually follow this cycle. We start with thinking about our model requirement, what exactly we want to achieve by making any NLU model. You have to keep in mind all the VA conversation which you want to attach with this model, and then you start working on the model building. So it's nothing but creating your relevant intents and assigning the right utterances to them, defining the entities and all. And then test your model, say how it is performing. Is it like as per the expectation? Tune your model. If it is not performing as per expectation, then finally publish it to your production or sub-production instance for your end users. Once we have a model deployment done, then it's good to ready to associate with your any VA conversations or AI search. Right. In the meantime, you keep eyes on your performance of your model. If you see that performance is degrading, or you see there are new ideas to improve the performance, go and start tuning your model again. Right. So this is the typically implementation cycle works. Before I going forward, I will take a pause. I do have a next short demo plan just to let you know how this NLU workbench looks like. Is there any question in between? You can ask your question in the chat window, or you can post your question in the Q&A section. It'll help you to. Okay, good. I'll take a pause before going demo in case if you have a question.
There is one question in the chat, G2.
Okay. With the NLU having access to the ServiceNow database, will it be able to use AI to determine the intent and utterance? Yes, so there is a separate section for AI. I think ServiceNow is really aggressively working on the future AI options to be available along with your conversations and how they can blend AI with NLU. But yeah, it is part of a ServiceNow instance.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I understand your question. So with NLU having access to the ServiceNow database, will it not be able to use AI to determine Oh, okay. I see. So you're saying using AI to determine the intent and utterance. Yeah.
Okay, there's another question. How does NLU fit in with the Now Assistant generative AI controller capabilities? I think we do have follow-up sessions, especially on the Gen AI section. I know it's one of the interesting topic, but as of now, this session is highly focused on NLU capabilities that we already have available on the production instances, and customer can start using is. ServiceNow is aggressively working on the Gen part as well. So in future, we will have a focus session on Gen AIs. There you can learn how we can really use the power of Gen AI along with NLU and conversations. Yeah, so let's keep this session limited to NLU and conversations. Yes, Japanese we do have. Mandarin I need to check. I think we do have some 17 languages I've seen supported.
Yes. Yeah, we definitely support Chinese.
Awesome, good.
Okay,
so keep asking questions.
There's one more question in the Q&A.
Q&A, okay. Best practices. Yes, we'll touch base the best practices for sure in this session. So let's hold on this question for now. Good. In between those, keep asking questions in the chat window. Few of my colleagues, they can answer you over the chat itself. I will move ahead forward and just show you a small conversation. So if you go to your VA, I want to just show you how this entire flow works. Ask a simple question. What is NLU? Yes, I want to know about NLU. So it has started giving me different information on the NLU by just simply asking question of what is NLU. The reason is because there is a model behind it, which is really extracting the intent. So intent is nothing but I want to know about the NLU keyword. If I want to know more, yes. Yeah, so this is one of the simple conversation where I just use the intent to know about NLU as such, and see how VA is started responding me with the relevant content. Yeah. So how this entire conversation works, if you recall your VA experience, then usually we go to use the VA, we usually go to the conversational interfaces where we have all the VA related options. If I go to settings here, you will see the tab called virtual agent. So I'll not go into deep dive in such a VA because this session is all about using NLU with VA, right? So we'll skip a couple of VA topics. We'll focus our conversations on the NLU. So if you go to a virtual agent side, you will see this section. And this is how you can switch on your NLU on your instance. Usually it comes automatic switched on, so you don't need to really click separately. And this is the one area where you can have all your settings in the under VA about NLU, right? So if I go to view settings quickly, so this is where, yeah. So if you see by default, we have a service provider, ServiceNow, NLU. In case if you have more NLU service providers like Microsoft Luis or IBM Watson, Google Dialogflow. So ServiceNow is capable enough to consume all those different service providers integration. So if you have integration with other service providers, you will see the option in this drop-down list. You can select the provider you want to use. As of now, I'm keeping one default service provider as ServiceNow, which comes inbuilt with the instance. Once we have this enabled, then probably another concept which I want to show you is NLU Workbench. So how you can go to NLU Workbench by clicking here, right? Before I show you to the NLU Workbench, I want to show you the conversation which we just completed, right? The NLU conversation. So this is what the flow I was using. It's very simple flow. Start the conversation, information on the NLU. System will start predicting the intent. So intent was to know about NLU more, then supply the information and ask a question. If it is really relevant, you want to know more. So this is pretty much very simple conversation. How this is getting power from NLU? If you see the properties behind this conversation, you will see this section called NLU. And this is where the power comes. So what I did here, I just created a small model in the ServiceNow instance, and I have attached this model here with this conversation, right? So this is what the model name is, and this is what the intent that that my user want to know, right? This is what the predictable intent behind the conversation. So this is how you can integrate your models with VA conversations. If you integrate this way, then you will have this additional tab here called NLU intent. Right. So here we have power. This is the additional section. If you integrate your VA conversation with NLU, then you will see all these possible utterances. We will learn more about these utterances in a few seconds. Yeah, so this is what the VA conversation look like. I was talking about the NLU workbench earlier, right? So this is the way. So you can click here and go to NLU workbench. I've already clicked, I have already opened the workbench. So this is how the workbench look like. One-stop shop for all your NLU model activities. Workbench will give you option to create models, to tune your models, to check the performance your models, to define entities, vocabularies, or everything at one place, right? Simply you have to navigate to Workbench. You can navigate to Workbench by clicking on this setting, or also you can search NLU here. You will have models, right? So this is what the model look like. Here you have option, you can use our pre-built model, which comes as out of the box part of your instance. You can import your data from CSV and create your model from here. Otherwise, you can create a model from blank data, right? So if I quickly show you, I have to just give name of the model here. Say, ticket. Right, I will just do the description, what exactly this model is going to do about. I can select a language. So earlier there was a question on the languages. So I think we do have so many languages supported as part of NLU. So you can, so idea is you have to, if you are using languages, then you have to create a model in that language itself. Yeah. So if we have say 3 languages, English, Mandarin, or Japanese, you need to create your models in 3 different languages. So here I'm going to take example of English model. What is your purpose behind it? So if I want to use this model with virtual agent, then I can select virtual agent, or with AI search, I can select the AI search. As of now, let me take a virtual agent option. You can define the business area if you want. As of now, I'm gonna select IT. The reason is so that, if you have, say, so many models, then you can easily differentiate which model belongs to which business area. Click next. Yeah, so I think system is creating model for us. So once it will create, then it will notify us. So this model is going to be a blank model because we have not created this model by copying some models or importing the data. So it is going to be the blank model. Yeah, here we go. Oops. Okay. Some error. Maybe some test model. And say next. Yeah, this time I created. This is what our blank model is. Asking me there is no content. Yeah, I know because I have created blank model. So this is what the model is created, and you will see the life cycle of this model, right? So this is what the first life cycle event You can manage your model or content here. You can test your model. You can publish your model later on, right? And this is where the power of model comes. You can define your intents here. What exactly you want this model to achieve? What are the possible intents? You can define the entities. You can define your vocabulary, right? So all those are things. If I want to add an intent, so I want this model to predict, open IT ticket. So, for example, I want to predict if user, based on the user conversation, whether user want to create a ticket or not. So the description. So this is what the intent I have created. Now I have an option to add multiple utterances, right? So utterances, you remember, utterances is nothing but the various different ways user can show the intent, right? So one of the utterances can be a laptop issue, right? So you can add the utterances here. You remember, so we created this model with blank. So I can add the utterances manually. You can also import the utterances. Now you can copy the utterances. Yeah. So this is what the example of utterance here. And if you see this underline, so what it is that system is detecting, what do you mean by laptop? So laptop may have different meanings, right? What is your meaning for this particular intent? So basically here you can define the my meaning. So basically laptop here, I'm referring hardware, computer type of hardware. Right? So I can define this. So all these definitions will help model to predict a right intent. Similarly, there is a concept called entity, as I remember earlier. So entity is nothing but giving context to conversation, setting up the action. So we can define the entities here. How we can define? We can create new entities. These are different type of entities that you can choose. As of now, let's say I want to create a new entity here, say urgency. Right. So high, medium, low. Here, high is medium and low. So what basically I'm doing here, I want to define an entity against this word issue, and whenever this issue entity discovered in the conversation, system is going to assign a priority for this entity. So there is an action behind it. Yeah. So I want anytime if user type a word laptop issue or any issue, it is going to assign a high priority for that entity, right? So we can skip conversation to asking this question, hey, what is the urgency of this particular issue that you're talking about? System will detect if there is an issue, keyword mention, it will assign a high priority for that one, right? Or another example may be laptop on fire. Right? So if someone's laptop is on fire, then it doesn't make sense to ask this question, what is the urgency? Of course, it's a high urgency. So you can define the entities, you can give a meaningful inputs to your conversation. Yeah, this is about entity, and we learn how to create models. There are different ways. So this is about model creation. You can test your model. We'll talk more about testing options. I do have a slide over there. So any questions till now? Creation of the model, assigning virtual agent. Let me quickly check.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions. So one I just answered. So Paul asked, do we recommend one model or multiple models with grouped intents? So I did post the KB article there, which you can refer to, but basically we recommend you try not to have too many models because there is the possibility of clashes in intents between models. So we do have a tool that for you to help troubleshoot some of that if you do get clashes.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
we do recommend you stick to, fewer models, the better.
Awesome. Good. Keep asking questions. With this, I will move to my slides back. I would
Sorry,
like...
Jitu, there was also one other question in the Q&A. I think it was around licensing. So, what license do you need for NLU? So you basically need a pro license, like ITSM Pro or CSM
Yeah.
Pro or something like that. So if you have virtual agent, not the virtual agent Lite, then you should have NLU. I hope that answers the question.
Good, thanks. All right, good. So I hope you can still see my desktop. So since till now we covered how to create a model, how to interact with your workbench, how to assign your models to your virtual agent conversations, I would like to talk about the various different ways how you can test your models. Once you created your model, these are different options you can test. Of course, you can follow your own method of testing, but ServiceNow gives you a couple of inbuilt options. That's something you can utilize and start testing the performance of your model, right? So if you can see my desktop, the first option that we have here, you can compare the draft model versus the last published version. So if you have published your model already, you're using this NLU model in your conversation, and you recently tuned your model again to better perform, then before publishing that new changes or new drafts, you can test how it is performing as compared to the live model that we have or production model that we have. Right, I'll show you how to do this. The another option that we have is NLU expert feedback loop. So this is nothing but it gives you option to extract the data from your virtual agent chat, the production chats, and it will start giving you option. These are the potential chats that we have, and you can, one of your admin or someone can go through all those suggested chat logs and start using those chat options to to assign those as utterances in your existing model. So this is something about you can share your feedback as an admin user or on the real conversations happen on your production instance, and see if those making sense to add in your model that you're using, right? So to improve your conversations in future. The multi-model best testing give you option to test multiple models against a large set of data. So if you recall the machine learning, right? So usually machine learning works in such a way that 80% of your data where you want your machine models to learn, and then you keep 20% of set of data for performance testing of that model, right? So same concept here. You can keep your testing data separately. You can upload this testing data on the instance, and you can start comparing your model performance against those testing data points, right? So this concept we'll learn more about in a few seconds. Cross-model conflict is really a good option where you can see what are the utterances they are conflicting. So for example, if one of the intent is create a IT ticket is having utterance of laptop issue, you might have a same utterance into some other intent as well. So for example, speed slow, my laptop is slow is kind of an intent. So there are sometimes by mistake or while creating utterances, people, they keep same utterances into different models or different intents. Then your models will start confusing what to predict, which is the right intent to predict against those common utterances. So this is where the way you can use, and you can see all those conflict utterances. NLU model performance, again, you can see how it is basically how your model is performing against the actual VA conversations. So if you recall your VA, whenever any user initiate the chat, you can enable the option where user can give feedback, whether virtual agent give us a relevant information or start asking the right question. So this is something you can get the data from your actual conversations, and then compare your models against those things, right? Intent discovery is something in a realistic world. If you want to know what are the potential intents, if I can include those intent into a model, our users, they will have a more benefit. So system will discover intents for you based on your real conversations on your production virtual agent instance, right? So we'll just quickly see these options before I going to the next way. So how you can utilize these inbuilt options that we have. So go to NLU, and you will see these options, right? You will see the option to check the performance, to see the intent discovery, multi-model batch testing, or even cross-model conflicts. If I take example of, say, performance, so you can see how my model is performing for the virtual agent, right? So if you can see here, we have virtual agent conversations where 55% is something user confirmed as virtual agent rightly predicted, or it is exactly that VA give a right question or right content to the user. And this is something based on the user confirmation. How you can enable this option on the user confirmation? Go to your VA settings. So you can enable this option. Ask user if topic VA choose is correct. So user will initiate the conversation, then there will be an option to give us a feedback. So user can give feedback to those conversations, and this is where system will use to compare the model performance with the user feedback. So you can see here 8% something the instances where user not share this information or feedback. 36% our conversations where user they said VA predict a wrong intent. So this is one way you can check the model performance, how your model is performing against the actual feedback from the user, right? So you can use this option within ServiceNow instance. I will not go into deep dive, but yeah, you can really see, filter out your data based on further. You can see what are the unsupported utterances. You can see which are the utterances performed well, and which are the utterances really where your VA not predicted the right intent. Right? So this is one way. The another way is intent discovery, multi-model batch testing. If I click this is the option. You can so you remember the machine learning concept, keeping your 20% data for your testing of model. So you can upload those 20% data set. You can create the data sets here. So I have created 2 data sets just to check the performance of my models against these utterances, right? Whether model is predicting right intent against these data points. So you can upload your data set. You can run the analysis. And if I show you the data here, so you can see against this sample data, 46% of my model, it is predicted correct way. 33% is something where model confused. Multiple predictions happen, 0% missed, and 20% time that my model predicted the incorrect intent. So you can verify the data points, and you can improve it further, right? So this is another inbuilt option. If I go further down, then we check the multi-model batch testing. Now we can check the cross-model conflict. So you can see here, I just run one analysis yesterday. This is what my model is. And you can see there are 2 critical conflict, 2 moderate conflict. So what these conflict basically are, I have in my model, I have 2 intents, open IT ticket and hardware issues. And what we saw here, we have a common utterances. So basically, this is the way we can identify if we have a multiple common utterances, The reason is if you have a common utterances, then model will start confusing, what to predict. So you can utilize this option to check how your, if you have any conflicting utterances in your models, and you can improve them further, right? You can modify those utterances to make them more relevant about your intents. So laptop issue is very generic. It is predicting laptop because laptop defined as an entity under the hardware issues. And since it is related to our laptop issue, so it is indicating that user need to open IG ticket, right? So you can utilize this conflict review option. So these are a couple of inbuilt options. We do have intent discovery as well, where I tell you, right? So we can discover the intent. System will suggest you that what are the best intents you can include in your models based on the real conversations on your production instance. Yeah. So with this, I'll just take a pause in case if you have questions. I can see.
Yeah, there was one question from John. So how does NLU assign an urgency to the utterance if you map to an entity? So basically, the entity is just a variable, and it'll capture the value for you to use within your conversation. So there's no logic to the entity. And then we just have another question that's come in. Ask how we collect this data. It's something we're testing in real world with users. So Shweta, are you talking about the utterances? Is that what you're asking about collecting? Yes. Okay, it's something we're testing.
Yeah, so we have multiple ways. Either you can keep your test data within you can collect this test data from your own experiences. Otherwise, as I mentioned, right, you will have a different option. You can take a feedback from the users from your actual conversations. You can collect this data and start using that. So it is up to you. If you have some data to test, go ahead and see how your model is performing on my own data, right? If it is predicting the right way or not. Otherwise, you can trust on the ServiceNow instance. ServiceNow instance can collect data on your behalf from your real virtual agent conversations on production. Yeah, I hope this answers your question. Okay, so keep asking question in midway. So there was a question on the entity, right? So these are the entities defined. So you can define entities here. As I mentioned, we have different type of entities. We can see one entity is urgency 2. There are system inbuilt entities as well. So it's kind of a reference. So what system will do, system will make a reference of those entities. And whenever your VA conversation, they will have same references, then NLU will, will predict the right intent behind those variables. So someone is type, my laptop is on fire. So fire is an entity already defined as a high urgency. So, your conversation can skip the question about urgency. So it will not ask a question, hey, what is the urgency of this issue? Of course, system already know if laptop is on fire, it's on high urgency. So it will directly start create a ticket instead of asking a question from user. So you can skip multiple, questions that in our normal VA conversation we used to ask from user. You can avoid all those unnecessary things and make your system smart enough to make a decision. Okay, good. Let me go back. So we discussed about the various testing and options, and of course you can publish your model by clicking here. If I go to my model, so you can create a model, you can add the assurances, define your entities here, you can test your model performance. If I just quickly show you, right? So this is the way to test. And you can, once we are satisfied with the performance, you can publish your models. So you can publish this model on your instance. Yeah. I want to cover a few additional things. I want to cover the best practices that someone asked question about best practices. So let me go back. So we discussed about the life cycle of the implementation, right? This is what the life cycle of tuning your model. You can plan the tuning work, you can build your model, test the model here. And then if you see any performance degradation, or if you see we have a new utterances to increase the model prediction, then you can go to the tuning cycle. How you can tune your model? Again, you can use the different options that we already have for testing the performance of your model. And then I'll tell you what are the best practices you can use to tune your model and start getting the best responses, right? And once you tune your model, deploy the model, monitor the performance again, and if it is performing well, you can expand this model to your VA conversation or AI search, and you can improve this conversation in future as well. Right, so this is typically the life cycle works. I would like to touch base on a couple of best practices. I'm not going to read everything, but definitely we do have a couple of out-of-the-box models available, which comes with your instance. Instead of creating your new models, you can always try to use those models that we already have. I'm not sure if you notice, but if I go to home, these are the out-of-the-box models you will get along with your instance, right? About HR related, ITSM, and you see these are the models in different languages. So on a day one, you don't need to create your fresh model. Better to utilize those models. Of course, you cannot change anything in these models because these are read-only. But what you can do, you can duplicate these models and make the relevant changes for yourself. So I will encourage to use the out-of-the-box models. Always, try to see the knowledge gaps, insert content. Always try to define intents, and so that model can start predicting the right intent, and with the help of utterances, try to choose NLU entities over separate intent. You can use the vocabulary option that we have. So not sure if we really covered the vocabulary, but you can define vocabulary for your own industry, for your own company, for your own use cases. So if I go to this model, you can see the vocabulary here. So vocabulary is nothing but giving your own industry meaning to a particular word. For example, I was talking about zebra, right? So zebra can be used in multiple sense. So for example, if any company, they want to use zebra in terms of the printer or those things, then they can define the various vocabulary items. Hey, whenever we see zebra printer, then refer the zebra that we are talking about, zebra technology, right? So you can define the vocabulary. You can define your words to synonyms as well. So people, they call same word in different way. Yeah.
Just checking, can everyone still hear? Looks like Mimi might have lost her audio. Is it just Mimi? I can certainly still hear you. Can other people still hear us?
Oh, we have lost the word.
Okay, it might just be you, Mimi.
Can you hear me guys now?
Yeah. I think we're still good. Keep going. Okay,
good, awesome. So yeah, we're talking about the vocabulary. So you can use the vocabulary to define, to give a different synonyms to your words based on your industry, based on your use cases. So those are the couple of best practices. Quick on what are the different things you can do to perform your model in a better way. You can avoid unknown words in your utterances. So words like I am. So I am is not a correct word. It should be I space AM. So avoid those unknown words. Acronyms like PIN, ASAP. You can avoid these unknown words in your utterances. If you want to use them, then always use the entity and relevant vocabulary for synonyms. Yeah. Avoid using non-English word if you are creating an English model. It will make your model confused and it will not perform well. Yeah, avoid the model ambiguities. So don't use the overlapping intents. For example, Outlook login or Outlook meetings. It can make your model confused. Don't use the low context utterances. For example, one word, right, passcode or single word reset. It will not help your model to predict the right intent. Don't combine the utterances. So here you can see this example. I need a new laptop and a printer. So try to make two different utterances instead of keeping a one statement. So keep it something like, I need a new laptop, I need a printer. Yeah. So these are recommended intent structure. You should have enough intents before publishing your model. We recommend to keep at least 5 intents in your model, and don't create too many intents, right? So it doesn't make sense to use so many intents, though we are keeping an upper limit of 300. But yeah, try to make it relevant intents. You can also keep an eye on the number of utterances. We recommend to have at least minimum 15 utterances in your intent, right? 15 to 200. Make sure that you have enough coverage when you are creating your utterances. Try to cover the utterances or different way the user can ask same intent or show the intent. Avoid duplicates, of course. Yeah. So these are the couple of things that you keep in mind while creating your models or tuning your models to perform at the best level. With this, I would like to go ahead a quick poll, and of course, keep asking question. Let me see if I have a question.
Oh, wait, do you have 3 open questions?
Let's go. Should the format of utterance be in sentence, question, phrase format? Which format might have a better chance to capture the users in utterances? Yes. Sentences, yes. Questions, yes. Phrases, keep those phrases short. It's not that 3 lines, 4 lines phrases. So keep them short so that your model can learn and give us a best result. But yeah, these are the good ways to define your utterances.
And I mean, I think it's in the title, right? Natural language understanding.
Yes.
So how are people asking for these?
How people ask?
That's how it should be. That's how it should be phrased. Just make sure it's relatively short, and make sure you don't have 2 phrases that are too similar.
Yeah.
It should be natural. It should be. You should interview your end users and ask them, or look at the data and see how they're actually asking for things.
Yeah, correct. There's a question on the entities. Yes, so entities are global. When you're defining your entities, you can define them as a global, and then you can refer all these entities in across all the models that you will create.
No, they're model specific. Entities are model specific. So you define it in the model, and then they can be used within
all the intents.
The intents within that model.
All the intents within a model. Yeah.
Yeah.
So within your model, you create 10 entities. Then you can use these entities across all the intents. There's another question. Are there any capabilities to copy models from one language to another? No. You have to correct. So you need to make a model for each language, and system will not help you on the translation part of models.
But yeah, I mean, we do another capability we didn't talk about today is dynamic translation. So if you don't want to maintain multiple models, one thing you could look at using is dynamic translation. But for that, you would need to connect to a translation service. So with that, you only need one model, and the user enters whatever they enter. That goes to a translation service. It interprets it to the model language that you have, or your system language, and then it'll respond, and then that gets translated back to the user's language. So that's all transparent, and you can use that if you don't want to maintain multiple language models.
Yeah. So with this, I just quickly launch a poll. I would like to know, since you know a little bit more about the NLU capabilities, how many of you are going to try it in your business conversations? Just take a few seconds.
Got another couple of questions while they're going. Can an intent be used in more than one virtual agent topic? No. So that's where you would get a clash. So you want separate intents. Well, your virtual agent topic should be dealing with one intent. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So if you can see my desktop, then only option I have to define one intent. I cannot assign multiple intents in my conversation. So in the meantime, I got the result. I think, yeah, most of the folks, they said they want to try the NLU in their VA conversations. Let me go and the poll share result. Okay, let me go to questions. More questions here. If no more questions, then probably we can conclude this session here. In case if you want to join us in future sessions, try to register yourself with the upcoming future webinars. And with this, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.